I want to talk to you guys today about boundaries. I know that boundaries is a topic that can produce anxiety in a lot of people, especially if you're sensitive and especially if you're someone who has not had a lot of experience having your boundaries respected in the past. A lot of times people don't have faith that their boundaries will continue to be respected, and it can make things feel a little life or death. It can make things feel like you're going to be annihilated all over again and you're going to be in some sort of shameful experience all over again. So what people do instead is they kind of withdraw and pull back and withhold their truth. And it becomes a sort of preemptive boundary where they don't really have to risk the visibility of having a really strong, firm no that could then somehow get walked all over. The problem with doing something like that is when you preemptively hold yourself back, you're also holding back a lot of your life force, a lot of your creativity, a lot of what you're here to do, and you tend to suffer as a result. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you 3 principles or helpful tips to help you get into deeper and better relationship with boundaries. Helpful principle number 1. I need some time to think about this. Let me get back to you. Memorize those words and imprint them into your brain so it becomes an automatic reflex. So often what happens is when we're put in a position where we have to give a clear, firm answer or potentially draw a boundary, because it produces anxiety in us, there tends to be a kind of fight or flight response where we end up sort of blurting things out before we're ready. And we don't even have the opportunity to get clear on what our truth is. We're just trying to keep ourselves safe as quickly as possible. Let me just give an answer that's going to make them comfortable, and that's going to make me comfortable, and that's going to make everything better. And then, later on down the line, you realize you somehow betrayed a boundary, and then you're angry at yourself and angry at the world and angry at God all over again. However, if you can just rely on the words, you know what, I need some time to think about this, let me get back to you, you've suddenly created space for yourself to go off and get clear. I feel like the importance of this cannot be overestimated. If you do not have the pressure of giving an answer right here and right now, you can then go off to your little corner of the world and you can journal and you can talk to your friends and you can talk to your guides and you can talk to God and you can get clear where your actual truth lies. You have a right to take space to think about things. You have a right to get back to people, and it quite often is the key to you being willing to actually get into relationship to what your boundary is. Helpful principle number 2. Once you've successfully created the space for yourself to get more deeply connected to you and where you're at with regards to the situation, you ultimately want to let yourself get absolutely clear on what your uncensored, uncompromised, unfettered truth is. And I actually recommend that you put it in writing. So you can think of this as like a letter that you never actually send someone. What you want to do is give yourself space to just have your truth all the way. If you knew that your truth were going to be totally accepted and celebrated, and that there was no wrong answer you could give, and that no one was going to get upset or no one was going to get mad, and that you were supported just to be in your authentic self, what would your uncompromised truth be? For people who get scared of boundaries, we often kind of get into a codependent space where we're more concerned about managing the other person's reaction than we are with getting aligned with our own deeper truth. So you might even know what your boundary is, but instead of presenting it in a clear, direct way, you start to qualify. You kind of cut around the corners a little. You use deferential language. You dress it up in apologies. You try to create some smoke and mirrors to deflect from just the core distilled truth of what you have to say. So I think it's really important to give yourself that space where you just totally have permission to block out any possible repercussions, to block out any expectations that might be on you, and just let yourself know if there were going to be no repercussions to your decision, what would your uncompromised truth be? Again, put it in writing, don't qualify, don't apologize, let yourself know it, let yourself have it. The third principle in my boundary breakthrough roadmap is allowing the universe to bring to you your worst possible scenario. And this is something I do with clients all the time when they're really nervous about how something's going to go. When we're in deep resistance to a particular outcome, like someone getting really angry at us or pointing a finger at us or blaming us, that's what causes this energetic bracing where we're trying to push something away. We're trying to manage an outcome. And when we're trying to manage an outcome, that's when we get disconnected from our truth. And that's when we start betraying ourselves. And the problem with that is it might help to avoid the dreaded outcome, but it comes at a huge cost, which is our own sense of, first of all, our own sense of being able to take care of ourselves, our own sense of self-worth, that we are worthy of having our truth, and it also comes at the cost of having to live with these sort of held, stifled resentments, which quite honestly turn into rage, and it really doesn't feel good for anyone involved. So what I always like to invite people to do, and you can almost think of it as a meditation, sit down, take a breath, and stop resisting the worst possible outcome. Like literally say out loud, universe, I give you permission to bring me the worst possible outcome. Breathe that in. Allow it to happen. Invite it in. The second you invite it in, the second you invite the possibility in, you're no longer in energetic resistance. Your whole vibration changes with that one energetic shift. And so then the conversation becomes not, how do I, manage the situation so that I avoid the thing that I don't want to go through? And instead it becomes, okay, I'm allowing for the possibility that this horrible outcome might happen. What do I need to do to take care of myself? And what's so powerful about this is that this is actually where transformation can occur. Because if you're willing to get into energetic relationship with the worst possible outcome, you are going to ultimately heal whatever is driving the fear. But if you're staying stuck in the fear that says, I've got to avoid this, I've got to avoid this, I've got to avoid this, you're just keeping that fear alive and you're gonna keep drawing that energy in. It's kind of like Frodo going to Mount Doom. Like the only way he's getting to the end of his journey is by going to Mount Doom, going into the belly of the beast. If you truly want to shift your relationship to these energies out there that feel so threatening, at some point you're going to have to be willing to get into relationship with them in a way that feels good and right for you. And so what I love about taking the time ahead of time to just simply allow the possibility for this worst outcome to happen is that it then gives you space to really dream into, okay, how do I take care of myself here? What's my deepest truth here? If they do point fingers at me, what do I want to say? What are my go-to, truths that I know are true for myself that I'm going to want to articulate? At what point am I going to want to hang up the phone? At what point am I going to want to disengage? What support do I need? You just start thinking about the whole situation differently and you create a whole different reality around it. So you've created the space you need to actually get clear. You've connected to your deepest truth regarding the situation. You've given the universe permission to bring forth your worst possible outcome so you can start to energetically shift your relationship to it. This brings us to our last principle, which is see your boundary as an act of creativity. Which it really is, by the way, because again, it is your truth and it is your expression and it is the energy that's moving through you. So when you're willing to know what your deepest truth is, and when you're willing to actually sort of put it out there into the world, into relationship, however it's going to be demonstrated, you are in a sense expressing yourself. You're expressing a part of who you are. And there's something that's incredibly empowering about that. To me, it's very similar to like creating a painting that you're proud of. It's very similar to, writing a piece of writing that you're proud of, or preparing a meal that you're proud of. This is an act of creation. It is an expression of you. It's an expression of your soul. It's an expression of your spirit. This is how we get into co-creation with the universe. It's not by hiding. It's not by trying to control things. It's not by trying to put out the fires before they happen. Instead, it's the willingness to go inward, to connect to the truth of who we are, and then to put it out there regardless of what the outcome is. That is an actual art form. That is an actual act of creativity. And if you can connect to your truth as a form of creativity, it actually becomes so much lighter. It becomes so much more self-affirming. It becomes a joyous process. And I know for me in my own life, when I've had difficulty with boundaries, when I've actually given myself the permission to take the time to get clear on my deepest truth and to truly understand the most authentic way I want to articulate it, by the time I get to the place where I have to share that truth or send that email or make that phone call, the experience of it has literally transformed in my body, where I am genuinely excited to share this with the world, even not knowing if it's going to be badly received. For me, it's just an act of my own creativity. And in bringing forth my creativity, I am serving the universe, and I am in relationship with spirit. And once I'm in relationship with spirit and I'm seeing this boundary as a way of being in relationship with spirit, it actually allows me to genuinely not care what the reaction on the other side is going to be. And it actually makes me just very curious from a much more kind of witnessing perspective of, hey, what's going to happen here? Am I going to get a totally respectful response where I'm seen and validated? Or am I going to get a reactive response where someone's deeply triggered and they try to pin some shit on me? And by the way, if they do come back with a triggered response and try to pin some shit on me, I am once again allowed to say, you know what? I need some time to think about this. Let me get back to you with my response. That self-care can be used in any situation, even in the middle of a debate, even in the middle of a fight, even in the middle of a charged situation. You can always say to someone, you know what, I need some time to think about this. Let me get back to you. Okay, you guys, so that's my roadmap for getting into deeper, better relationship with boundaries. Let me know how this lands with you. Let me know if you have any questions. Tag a friend. And if you've had your own breakthroughs with boundaries, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your own personal stories of having boundary breakthroughs.